Well, we're finally live to discuss what an amazing win it has been for Team India. It's a historic win for them. Fantastic performance from the bowlers, and then, of course, the batters getting the chase done in a hurry was fantastic to watch. We've got Shomi, we've got Neha. Unfortunately, I'm not donning my India jersey, and so is Neha. Neha, I hope you've got your Team India jersey all logged in. I hope you're not one of those ki boss jersey सब हम लोग विश्वास नहीं रखते.
No. Today I was like, let's just watch the game because I really wanted to see India get through the line. And, sometimes wearing the India jersey can be like a jinx sort of thing. But yeah, what a win, man. I mean, my predictions came true from yesterday. Yay. So if there are, any viewers who are like, Neha ko kuch nahi aata, expert kyun bula rahe ho? Finally, a prediction came right. I even flexed it with you guys earlier. So yeah, that's a great thing that India had to chase a total of just 75 and winning that your first test match against Australia. It really speaks volumes of the kind of test match we have had. And it's a testament to the kind of good work put in all the 3 days, like even materializing on this fourth day. So yeah, all happy here.
Definitely, I mean, personal win counts for even more, I guess, Neha. You feel vindicated, of course. Show me, but in terms of how the surface also played today, clearly it wasn't going to be easy if India were chasing anything in excess of 100 as well. So happy with the way the bowlers did, and of course then the batters getting it done in a jiffy.
Of course, Christmas came in early, and this particular win, backed by the win against England, both first-time wins. So I think it's a huge moment, a huge up for women's cricket in India overall. In the global scenario, and especially the way we won. It was very dominating today, and Neha. It's not just that Harry heard your words. It also kind of seemed that Healy heard your words. So it was a very similar kind of a bowling strategy that came along when they came into the bowling. So I think overall a great day. Couldn't have had a better start to the holiday season.
100%. There couldn't have been a better start. Let's start again. Let's sort of pick the day out first. Let's talk about what happened in the beginning. Let's review it out, and before we sort of move on, and also talk about what India is going to look forward to in the future. I mean, not so far as well. In the next 4 days, they'll also be playing, or rather, beginning the ODI series against the very same side in the very same city, of course, like always. But Neha, we saw how the day began. Something we'd also spoken about. The surface is sort of spinning a bit. Yesterday seemed a lot more easier for batters to bat. It seemed like the surface had settled. But today, once again, the spinners were back into the fray. How would you explain that first sort of half an hour, 45 minutes where Australia? I mean, you probably I'd leave it to you best. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that first phase of the play was quite fascinating to see because we could see how the ball was really dipping low. And Renuka and Pooja Vasak were just looking so good. They were looking so much at ease with the conditions. And, and then we later saw how the spinners came into the fray and they got the wickets. It was great to see Rajeshwari Gaikwad, get into the action and just wrap up that tail enders. But credits to Australia, the kind of mindset they came in. I'm pretty sure they would have thought, ki, boss, हमें करना है, at least a good total of 150, 160, but they just couldn't get across the line, and that's where you have to put all your focus on the Indian spinners, right? Sneh Rana was getting those edges, and we could see how they were so chirpy, and the kind of energy they were just spreading all across. You could see how that was really rubbing off. So in that sense, I was quite impressed with how the conditions also kind of favored the spinners. And yeah, especially I think we spoke about this yesterday, that first half an hour and 1 hour of play is going to be very important. You get those early breakthroughs, you've made those inroads, and then it's done and dusted. And that's pretty much what India, they kind of stuck to that template of getting those early wickets. And yeah, the rest is for all of us to see.
Definitely, and also coming to India's batting as well, 75 is what we were chasing. Shefali got out cheaply, and then we saw Richa Ghosh, of course, coming in at number 3. That was a fairly nervy innings, to be honest. I mean, I know the surface was sort of doing tricks and all of that, but Richa seemed intent on sort of going anything that's outside off stump. Unfortunately, with not so much success. Shami, what do you put down to that? Do you put it down to just the surface, or do you still feel Richa Ghosh is yet to sort of develop into the red ball player that we want her to be?
Of course, she has to develop. It's only her first test. But yeah, looking into the intent of the Indian batters, the way Shefali started with a 4 right away, I think that just set the tone. And somehow I started to feel that, it will be Shefali's innings. We will see fireworks today, and this 75 will just evaporate in thin air. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. She just fall a little short right after. But after that, Smriti seemed so fluent, especially the kind of shots that she were making. I think those were beautiful to look at. Richa seemed nervy, but at the same time, she was also pretty fluent with the shots that she had played. It was unfortunate for Australia to have dropped Richa at that point of time. Have they had got Richa at that point of time, it would have kind of wrecked the nerves in the Indian camp a little bit. But yeah, good for us. It's always fortune favors the brave. So it was great to see the girls kind of take this home at the end of it. But yeah, I mean, let's if we just go back and started how the look at how the day started for us. So talking about the bowling, I am from the generation where we used to really starve to see a prolific Indian bowler. Like it used to be a single fast bowler, probably at a single point of time, and just to have that another guy who to back him up, it used to be a rare sight to watch. On the backdrop of that, when I see a Pooja Vastrakar and a Renuka coming in, charging in at Australia, and especially the that Yorker length delivery that Pooja bowled to get off Gardiner, I think it's a sight to behold for me. So I think that is a moment of joy when you get a Yorker length delivery and get your one of the topmost batters on your opposition side out, and opposition side being Australia here, we standing at the verge of history. I think, and the reviews after that showed so much intent, showed so much aggression. I am just absolutely awe-inspired by everything.
100%. And yeah, special shout out to Yastika there. The reviews, she was really good behind the stumps, not just with her keeping, but with her reviews as well. I could hear a couple of tidbits here and there ki nahi, ball yahan pe laga tha, ball wahan pe chua tha. She seemed very assured of, what she felt, and she wasn't sort of scared of, giving her inputs to the skipper, which is very, very, very important. So kudos to her, which again sort of will again be a question that the Indian team will have to answer for themselves, given that Yasika now seems to be the first choice keeper for them in this format. So how are they looking at Richa? Is Richa going to be their sort of proper batter right up the orders? That's how they're looking to mold Richa. It'll be very interesting to see, but of course, given that India won't play enough tests, we don't know when will we next get to see this lineup play in this format. Let's hope it's sometime soon, because Neha and I, we were having this chat off air. We'll definitely bring that up later as well. Coming back to the game, Shami, you mentioned fielding. Vasant Narayan also says the roles were reversed today. Australia was feeling like India, and India like Australia. The brain fades, which we usually associate with India, happened to Australia. Experience matters. It carries a bit of weight. Hopefully, more tests will happen. Couldn't agree with you more on the latter part. But talking about experience, Neha, again, let's start with you on this. It's not like India, were the more experienced side of the two or something like that. Despite that, what do you think? Why was this happening to Australia? Like, do you think alien conditions had all to do with this, or do you think it was something more than just that?
See, I think one thing we have to really factor in is how the Indian conditions were always going to be alien for them, because Test match cricket is, of course, different conditions. It brings out a very different game as well. And I think subconsciously, Australia knew that it's going to get difficult for them. A win would be very difficult, but maybe a draw and obviously a loss was definitely on cards. And even I think before the series, it was scrapped off, right? It was not going to be a multi format series, and each format was going to be looked at in isolation. So, even in that sense, I think Australia was not seeing that coming, and I don't know how that decision thing panned out. But today, I think we could really see how Australia was, feeling that pressure, and that's how they played, cricket, the kind of cricket they did. But I think it also boils down to the conditions, because it was entirely new to them. And for our girls, we have been playing here so much, and yeah, it was just, I think, India making the most of the conditions in comparison to Australia. For although they have those experienced players, they were very nervy, and finally, we get to see India cross that finishing line in such a spectacular fashion. So all credit to India. But I think, if we had to really see a competitive test series, if there was like two more matches, I think, we would have probably seen a 1-all, and that third test match, again being a very interesting proposition. So yeah, a lot of talking points even in that front, I suppose.
Definitely. I mean, Australia really seemed like one of those sides that sort of improve, the more they play. We saw the difference between the first innings and the second innings itself, where, in the second innings, they knew now how to play again, spin. We saw Elise Petty being a lot more assured. She understood, what lengths to target in terms of hitting and not hitting and all of that. Again, Vasant also goes on to say, can't blame the Aussies there. They were a lot better in the second innings, but yeah, the batting disappointed them. Healy lacks, landing experience in terms of calmness and tactics. Hey, that sort of again takes me back to that 2014 tour of Australia where Kohli in the first test lost against Aussies, when Dhoni retired. सीधा ऐसा comparison मत करो भाई, एक ही टेस्ट हुआ है उसको भी. Let's give it some time. I'm 100% sure Healy has it in her. She'll definitely come back strongly or stronger. But yeah, in terms of how the surface played, we did speak about, spinners were going to be expected to play a bigger role even today. Was to be the case, Rajeshwari Gaikwad with two Jaffas, man. Like, people are talking about the ball that she bowled to Garth, but personally, I love the ball she bowled to Jonathan. That wicket was fantastic, man. Just through the gate, bowled, beautiful, beautiful stuff. But again, like, do you see India playing a proper 3, 4, 5? Okay, 5 is probably a bit of a stretch. At least a 3-match test series in the next year, in 2024. Xiaomi, let's start with you. Do you see that happening realistically? Because again, to be clear, FTP देख के बता रहे हैं, India's next tournament is the World Cup in September. तब तक कुछ नहीं है. उसके बाद सीधा दिसंबर में India tour Australia. So till then, there's nothing. So yeah, Xiaomi, do you see any changes to that?
I think I cannot step into the shoes of BCCI and tell what they are exactly thinking. But with the way the Indian women's cricket has evolved, and especially now with Amol on the helm of it, I think a lot of good things are about to come in. We could see today that how the coach was backing, how the coach was reacting, and that kind of shows that what kind of preparation has gone behind that, right? Also, BCCI's move of putting Amol Mazumdar as the coach shows a lot of intent, because he has been that kind of a guy in Indian cricket. He has absolutely taken Mumbai cricket to the height that where it is today. He has been a domestic giant, 30 odd domestic centuries. So I think that kind of shows the intent that yes, there is a lot of thought process going behind this. Whether we really evolve to play those 3-game, 3-game series is something only time will say. But also, I think that's something which will improve us leaps and bounds, especially in this kind of a condition, as Neha mentioned, that have we had a couple of more tests that would have actually tested the waters, because also if we just look back into the Australian side, how they performed across, and as we just saw in the comments as well, how they gradually became better throughout this test match. Of course, they had come into a new in the foreign soil with a new captain. They were supposed to have those moments coming in from an absolutely different format into a test match directly. They were supposed to have those hiccups in the beginning. But have this been any other team? Have they would have evolved across just 4 days? I have my doubts. So I think, yes, having at least even one more test along with this would have given us a lot more indication towards where the team is standing today. Because I still feel that first innings that we played, that the first innings in which we kind of dominated Australia, I think that's what made the real difference for us in winning this particular game. So yeah, it's a lot to test, but only time will tell.
Fair enough. Neha, what about you? Do you sort of concur those thoughts, or do you have something else to say?
So as a test fan, I believe like test cricket is the pinnacle of the sport. As this is a sentiment that a lot of cricketers and fans also echo. I definitely want to see like a 2 test match series or even a 3, because 5 and all is very unrealistic. But here comes a very important question: are the fans coming to the stadiums? Right now, when we saw this match that was happening in Mumbai, we see this is like a holiday season sort of thing. So I expected a lot of fans, throng the stadiums, and this is no disrespect to all the fans who did come, and we saw how noisy the stadium was. There were so many chants coming in, but I'm just looking at the fact that how do we draw in more crowds? Should we advertise the thing, advertise test cricket more, market it better? Should BCCI do something more? So I think this will be one of the biggest, for the lack of a better word, I'm going to use excuse that, BCCI will be like, "Arey, log nahi aate, so why should we keep more test matches?" So I feel that could be one thing. And even the commercial side of it, like, I think in BCCI or even as Indian fans, we're very privileged that we have one of the richest cricketing boards. We can afford to, host these test matches. But what about the other countries, right? Like West Indies, Bangladesh, South Africa, even Pakistan for that matter, right? So I think that becomes another talking point, because how is the ICC going to support these cricketing bodies? So I mean, we as Indian fans can push for 2-3 tests, but I think for the development of the game, we need to see all the teams, at least get that one-off test. So one-off test is certainly a step in the right direction, but where do they take it from here is a big concern. And how do you draw fans to the stadiums? For me, that has to also be looked in. And even the fact that the tickets were like free of cost and they were not priced and all, like, I don't understand what was the rationale behind that. I mean, it was probably to get in the crowds, but somewhere I think it backfired or something of that sort. So looking at the commercial side of it, I'd say I think we're a little far off from having these 2 test matches or 3 test match series. Right now, one of tests is a step in the right direction, but yeah, as a test purist, I think we would definitely want to see a lot more. Yeah.
Interesting. And Shomi, you want to add something to that? I feel you were interested.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think with respect to the fans coming into the stadium for Test cricket, we definitely see a dip even in men's cricket today. As far as the commercials are concerned, as long as we are getting the TV rights, as long as there is a TV telecast, I think BCCI is pretty sorted with respect to the commercials. And it's great now that at least the TV companies are showing that interest, which is taking definitely the game to a lot more homes. Now, with respect to, also the fans coming into the stadium, what I feel is, especially with the Indian stadiums, is the condition most conducive for a fan to come and watch the match, especially when there is no when the game has not prospered yet that much when it comes to women's cricket. So I think those are the kind of things that we should really look into, considering that the fan experience is definitely not the best fan experience we get. And especially in a place like Wankhede, you will still see fans turning up. There will be a decent crowd, but I'm really worried what happens when we take this out to some other city, some other place where it's maybe a tier 2 city. Is there even any kind of traction there? So yeah, I mean, it's a good sign that the TV rights are being purchased. That settles the commercial part for BCCI. It settles the part that the game is getting a lot more propagation compared to what it used to. When it comes to the stadium, be it men's cricket, be it women's cricket, all the more, the stadium experience is something that BCCI should really, really look into. Especially, when I was watching the stadium, like the matches in stadiums during the World Cup, a few of them, for example, Delhi, it was such a difficult experience for me. Even when we talk about Dharamshala being such a picturesque stadium, I always had a bucket list of going to Dharamshala and watching a match. But it turned out to be such a difficult experience for me, especially the way where the fans were handled. There was no ticketing system. There was no the numbering system. I think those are the aspects that really need to be looked into from the overall perspective of making the game better, and definitely when it comes to women's cricket.
And just one thing there, because both of you made some really good points, and that's actually what I wanted to ask as well, because I'm not sure if the lack of crowds is more a men-women thing or a format thing, because in general, Test cricket across both sort of genders, we don't see as packed crowds as you would see, say, for a T20. A T20 and Visakhapatnam is always going to be a full house. A Test match, not so much. But if the same Test match is played, at venues like the Chinnaswamy, like the M.A. Chidambaram Stadium, the Wankhede, rest assured, I know for a fact that these will give you packed crowds. Even Eden Gardens, of course. Like, you understand, we need to understand this. Again, this goes back to the same point that Virat Kohli had made, several years ago, that one big problem with respect to, Test cricket not penetrating the average Indian fan is because we play in far too many venues for our liking. We need to understand that we need to restrict this. We need to sort of just take a leaf out of Australia's playbook, understand what they've done. They have 5 venues. When you are touring Australia for a test series, you know where the first test is going to be, where the last test is going to be, this is the boxing test, this is the New Year's test, everything is celebrated. Bhai karo yahan pe, Pongal test karo, Diwali test karo, kuch bhi kar sakte ho. Like we have the advantage of, winter, summer, farak nahi padta. We can play cricket throughout. Aisa nahi ke there's a cricketing season in India. There's no cricketing season. It's all year long. And despite that, BCCI playing tests, again, no offense to Indore, to Surat, to all these cities, Sure, they also deserve some cricketing exposure, but Test cricket might not be the way to do that. If anything, T20 as वहाँ पे खिलाओ, और लोग आएंगे वहाँ पे, और लोग मतलब they'll be inspired, they'll be excited about it. I'm not sure if Test matches would be the right way, which again sort of begs the question. I don't think commercially we can do much about it right now because, like Xiaomi mentioned, commercial side is pretty much taken care of when the broadcast rights are sealed. Ticketing forms a very, very, very small chunk of the total revenue that they earn, which is why we have to sort of just take that into our stride and just live with it, because Test cricket, even when it comes to men's Test cricket, is financially not going to be feasible that way. It won't be the case. Like Vasant says, we should forget the commercial side of it for the time being. It will take time, but what is important is that the players get to play more matches. That's the only way you can sort of increase our appetite. Like it's but like anything, the more we see, the more we understand, the more we sort of digest it, and the bigger our appetite becomes. Ki boss, hum log ye dekh sakte hain. I mean, the reason why it sort of is a very big part of our life is because सॉरी थोड़ा जोश में या लगता है माइक डिस्कनेक्ट हो गया था बट या वन ऑफ माय बिगेस्ट पेट पीव्स is the fact that men's cricket has gone into an overdrive. 46 out of 52 Sundays in 2023 saw the Indian men's side play a game. 46 out of 52 Sundays. That's ridiculous. And again, makes no sense. Now, on the other hand, on the flip side, 7 Sundays for the women. So that's where there needs to be some middle ground. There needs to be some understanding ki kya karna. And as far as infrastructure, stadium infrastructure is concerned, भाई मतलब स्वामी आपने तो दुखी रख पे हाथ लगा दिया है. I've lost count of how many rants I've gone on to, because it's just horrible. I've been fortunate and privileged enough to sort of go to a lot of stadiums outside, and I don't think I've come across even a sort of okay, chuck it. Let's not sort of go into it. गलती से BCCI ने देख लिया, यहाँ पे भी embargo लग गया. But BCCI, भाई, please, I genuinely hope that the stadium going experience for the average Indian cricket fan improves. It has to improve. It should improve. There's no point calling yourself the richest cricket board. There's no point, you earn 18,000 crores annually and that's 28x the second highest. फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता भाई, पैसों का कुछ मतलब नहीं बनता, जाके FD लगा लो, फर्क नहीं पड़ता. It's very sad. It's very sad the way stadiums especially are managed. Again, people talk about the Narendra Modi Stadium, it being the biggest stadium and all of that. Sure, man, it is the biggest stadium, but trust me, for the average fan, it's not the easiest of experiences. It's not even handicap friendly. Like, again, how does a stadium that's being constructed, that's being inaugurated in 2022, not be handicap friendly? Like, how can you do that? It's very sad. And we right now BCCI has taken us for granted, which is understandable, but they need to understand that we watch all of this, we support the team despite them being like this and not because them being like this. वो फर्क उनको अगर समझ आ गया तो ठीक है, अगर नहीं आता तो भाई हम तो फिर भी देखेंगे, हम तो हैं फैंस, क्या करें भाई. But we can always hope that it does happen. Let's just take a few comments now because a lot of them have been chatty. Kushal says, I think it's more important to advertise tests on TV and the web as well, because there's really no ads about the women's team and the men's team is playing, which is a shame. I do agree with this because, again, India-Afghanistan series, एक महीना बचा है, already ad shuru. अभी से ad shuru है. Again, lot of mixed emotions, lot of feelings, lot of strong feelings, clearly. Let's also come back to the game. Let's close the game out. We also have the India-Australia ODI series that's coming up that we'll also talk and touch upon briefly. By the way, the presentation ceremony is done. Sneh Rana has been rightly awarded the player of the match. Genuinely surprised. Going by the norms, I thought, hi, Smriti ya Deepthi ko hi mil jayega, but deservedly Sneh Rana has gotten the man of the match. Neha, let's start with you. Sneh Rana's performance in this test match. Fantastic bowling, right? That was.
Absolutely. She's really shown why she's such an important, entity in that test unit. We've seen every single time she's backed up against the wall, she comes back strong, shows, why she's such a crucial cog in that bowling setup as well. And I'm very impressed, with how she's managed that consistency in test match cricket, even though she's been on and off in like the limited overs thing, and irrespective of how the management treats her. I hope with Amol Majumdar now, we will see more consistency and transparency in the selection side of things. But Sneha Rana, man. I mean, any adjective would, fall short to describe the kind of player she is. The mentality she has is just phenomenal. And even when she made her India comeback, like in that 2020-21 season, that is, there was a huge layoff before she played for India again. She was a consistent performer in the domestic circuit. So for her, every single time, it's about breaking that ceiling and making her presence felt. And yeah, this test match is the perfect indication that all of us needed, that Sneha Rana is here. And I think there were also like a lot, like even I put this on Instagram, like Rana ji, ek hi dir hai, kitni baar jeetoge, with the kind of wickets and even her celebrations, it really shows like the time off was very hard for her. So every single time she steps onto the field, there is, a point to prove. So yeah, super impressed with her and great stuff. Yeah.
Definitely. Show me anything to add to that, because I'm pretty sure both of us agree with what Neha had to say right now.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely agree with Neha. And when she talked about the fact that the way Sneha Rana came back into the side and proving her mettle in the domestic circuit, it always gave me that vibe of Ajinkya Rahane. And I always used to feel the same, that these guys are kind of always making a comeback and making a comeback, and how. Also talking about her contribution to batting in the first innings, which just looked like a 7 run out of a 45 odd balls, but how important that innings was to kind of hold the ground at that point of time, to really like claw in there. I think that's kind of frustrating out the bowlers, which kind of reflected in how the things came up in the later part of the game. So I think, yeah, absolutely deservingly the player of the match.
Fair enough. Let's also talk about your top performer for this test match. Again, Neha, let's start with you. Of course, Sneha Rana is the player of the match. Who, according to you, was the top performer of the match? Across both sides, if you feel someone from Australia was also, one of them.
So this is a tricky one. I think put my India hat aside here for a while and just look at Australia, because due credit to them for coming and actually presenting themselves as strong competitors. So I think my top performer, at least from an Aussie POV, would be Talia Meghra. Right now, scoring 50s in both innings is no mean feat. The manner in which she batted, as the deputy of the side, there was obviously a lot riding on her, and she's such an important player in that batting lineup. So I was super impressed with the way she really battled out, and I'm also looking forward to seeing her, in a lot more test series, and I'm pretty sure she's going to have a very long career for Australia as well. So super impressed with her. And from an Indian POV, I think I definitely have to go with Sneha Rana. I mean, any adjectives to describe her kind of contribution she's had will fall short. So the all-round capabilities that she brings to the table is, just phenomenal. And even the Yastika Bhatia, the wicket keeper, like I didn't rate her very highly. I used to always be like, like wicket keeping is her second skill, and batting is what she brings to the table. But I think this test match really showed. Each day I felt, she was just improving and getting better. And, even with the reviews, like we brought this point in earlier, right? How she was guiding Harmanpreet Kaur. Because Harmanpreet Kaur was always like so excited, like, lete hai, review, lete hai. But it was always like Yastika, that calm mind being like, hey, I felt this happened, that happened. And I think she might also eventually become a part of that leadership group, where important decisions are taken with respect to the reviews. Although she's a young player, and I don't know if in limited overs she will get that much of a go, because you have Richa as well. So that'll be again interesting to play out. And it's great to see we are in this phase of Indian cricket where we have a problem of abundance, which is always a good problem to have. So in that sense, it's great to see, so many positives and top performers coming. So yeah.
Fair enough. Shami, what about you? Top performer for the game?
I think I agree with Neha on Meghra, especially, I mean, those funny moments where she misfielded and then how she came back. And it's difficult for a person like her, of such a high stature in the team, who commands so much of respect, to, have those moments of failure. But yeah, I think the way she came back into the game, that was something which was very startling for me. Secondly, also the fact that that innings of Ellis Perry, I think that was one of the moments when I felt that Australia is coming back into the game. I think that's one of the key moments for me. Then with the India camp, definitely Sneha Rana has been fabulous. Pooja had been fabulous. But I also give a lot of ups to Richa, especially because she was a debutant. The way she played and the kind of judgments that she did with the ball, like, with her stroke making. She was defensive in certain cases. She played along in the ones where she could. And picking a leaf from the conversation of how Yastika had been a great tool for India in taking those reviews, I think Richa also had been a great tool for Harman when she was deciding on the DRSs. And having an extra wicket keeper in the close vicinity, I think in the forward circle, I think that makes a lot of difference, because both of them have those kind of a view when you are looking into a DRS decision, especially the ones where, in those LB decisions where the balls are going a little high. In such a case, probably having a couple of wicket keepers around, or the people who look from that lens, always adds up a little bit more value. So hence, yeah, Richa had been very phenomenal for me. Apart from, of course, all the other guys that had been good.
Fair enough. I mean, slightly left field choices for me, but I really like what I saw of Lauren Sheetal. Again, left arm pacer. She's young, playing her debut. I mean, she didn't get to bowl in the second innings, but really looking forward to seeing a lot more of her during the WPL as well. So yeah, fingers crossed on that. And as far as India is concerned, for me, it was all about Smriti Mandhana and her game against Ashley Gardner in particular. मेरे को बस वही देखना था कि boss, how does she play? Was happy. She again, even today, she looked assured, and that's what I was looking for. I, to be honest, it wouldn't have even mattered eventually if she didn't score a lot of runs against her, or even if she'd gotten out eventually, because she played a lot of deliveries against her and she looked comfortable defending it. She looked comfortable playing it. Because even in the England series, as recently as the England series, it just seemed like, she's being a bit nervy. She's in two minds. She doesn't know whether she should go front. She should stay back. But yeah, that was good to watch. So that's definitely going to be one of my top picks, along with Lauren Sheetal. Now going to the ODI series, which is going to start in 4 days, 28th, and the Indian side, of course, hasn't announced the squad because BCCI. Looking forward to it. A lot of good things to look out for, because again, India haven't played in ODI since the Bangladesh series, I presume, which was way back in July. So yeah, I mean, again, I'm hoping it won't be the same side that featured then, because there was a lot of hue and cry, around the squad selected back then. A lot of names that people felt shouldn't have been picked. A lot of names that people thought should have been a part but not being picked. Neha, any interesting names that you're looking forward to from the Bangladesh series? I mean, sorry, I'll put it this way. Any interesting changes you're looking forward to from the Bangladesh series that you would want, the selectors to go ahead with?
The Bangladesh series seems so far off that I've lost memory. So apologies if I get anything wrong. But I believe in that series, Richa was not chosen, and there's like a lot of talk
I'm
about
not sure. They never confirmed if it was injury or not, because I do vaguely
fitness
remember.
issues.
She had some injury-related concerns, fitness-related concerns. That was the term used. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think she would be one player I definitely want in the side, because as we see the batting now, we are moving on to limited overs cricket, and we know the kind of team that Australia is. So we need someone like a Richa in that batting order. I need her as a finisher, because in case we have a top order collapse, or we've had a good start and we need that final flurry of runs coming in. I feel Richa is that go-to person. And an outside chance, I probably want even Devika Vaidya to come in. Wait, was she a part of the Bangladesh series or not? Was she?
She was, in fact, didn't she play? I do remember her playing. I don't know if it was a T20 or not, but if she was a part of, I saw her playing, so she was a part of the
Hmm.
squad for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I think okay. So in either case, I'd want to see her also get selected for this series, because she again offers that extra bowling option and can be good with the bat as well. Seeing her, get that snub in the WPL auctions that recently concluded was quite disappointing. I don't want her to just fade off. So having her as a backup for someone is also someone I'm looking forward to.
Interesting. Shami, what about you? Any interesting changes that you're looking forward to? Any new names that you're looking forward to in the ODI setup?
Not really. Also, as Neha mentioned, it's pretty much faded away from my memory, the what the exact team structure was. But taking a leaf out of this particular test match, as we started to speak about the innings today, we spoke about how fluent Shifali had looked. Now, I definitely want her to come back to the party and kind of explode and become the player that she is. And we all know that when it comes to Australia, we need that very powerful power play, which she's very much capable of. So I think I just want to, I'm looking forward to see a Shifali Verma fireworks during the ODI series, saying that it'll not be. I mean, the Australian Pacers will be absolutely on the top of their game. It's a one-day match that we're talking about, and the pitch will not play probably as much as we have seen in the last few days. Of course, it wasn't the deciding factor for this game as well. But yeah, I think I'm looking forward to a good Australian pace versus a Shefali Verma.
Fair enough, and that's actually what I'm looking forward to from the India side of things as well. Paces that they go for, because Test match it was fairly. I mean, I don't know if convenient is the right word, but it was easy for them. कि boss दो pacer लेके चले जा, देख लेंगे हमारी spinners. Won't be the case. So I'm hoping someone like a Tita Sadhu also sort of gets a look in the ODI setup. Last time I remember them having a bunch of bowlers. In fact, they had all the bowlers that Gujarat Giants let go of. There was Monica Patel, there was Rashi Kanodia, there was plenty of them. I'm forgetting the names. Meghna Singh also was a part of it. I'm hoping someone like an Amanjot Kaur also, who did really well in the 30-20 years. So someone like her can come in. You never know. And yeah, closer home, Shreyanka Patil, boss, T20s mein acha kiya. White ball is clearly her format. I mean, you cannot not love that girl, man. She's just a fantastic player, fantastic team player. So yeah, a lot of names to look forward to. I'm genuinely hoping that we do get to see a lot of these new players, get to see a lot of new caps being awarded during the ODI series. And guys, we will be, of course, previewing and reviewing that. So that starts on the 28th of December. 3 ODI series, 28th, 30th, and the 2nd of Jan. So we'll be there for that. It's time to wrap up this review, but before that, we'll of course take all the comments that are remaining. Ashutosh Bajpai says, not a big fan of test centers. As a UP guy, it looks a bit hegemonic. Australia has 7 grounds, so it's easier to make test centers. Australia, England, the home series can have fixed venues. Other teams cannot. I understand where you're coming from, Ashutosh, and that it sort of limits, other people's interests and their ability to go and watch a test game. But isn't that the whole point? Like, I don't want to use certain terms because it might sound differently, but I'll try and be as politically correct as possible. But in a city where you're one of very few people who go and watch test matches, it's not going to be easy for for at least TV viewing as well. Like when we view empty grounds, empty stands, it becomes a lot more harder. Now, compare that with someone based in Bangalore, like me, for example. I would imagine there'd be a lot more of, people willing to go for a test match in Bangalore compared to a Lucknow or a Kanpur. So by that means, I'm just saying there should be a pecking order where at least cities where you think there'll be larger crowds, where you can expect larger crowds, should be higher up the pecking order. And sticking to it might not be the worst of ideas, simply because we want even the opposition to have an idea. Like, this also improves the opposition's understanding of what venues they'd be playing at, what surfaces to expect. Because again, we want this to be an even contest. We want to see good cricket being played, which is what we saw even now. Even in the India Australia game, we wanted to go the full distance. We wanted to go all 4, potentially even 5 days in the future. And for that to happen, I feel restricting the venues, making it a bit more familiar for sort of the opposition, might not be the worst sort of example to set. I know home advantage concede कर रहे हैं वगैरह वगैरह फलाना ढिमकाना, मानता हूँ. फिर भी बॉस टेस्ट क्रिकेट है, that's the beauty of it. थोड़ा मतलब थोड़ा होना चाहिए. There should be some grit, there should be some grinding. So that's my opinion. Of course, it is personal. To each their own. There's of course no right or wrong to this. And clearly, VCCI couldn't give a flying F about what we're thinking right now, unfortunately. Ashutosh Bajpai also goes on to say, thoughts on Harmanpreet throwing the ball at Elisa. I think it's wrong for bowlers to do that, whether it's Herman, Root, Johnson, or Stark. Neha, let's start with you. Clearly, you seem to have an opinion or two on that. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I thought it was just super aggressive of Harmanpreet Kaur to, do that. And it felt quite unnecessary at that moment, considering we already had the advantage in the match. It was going to eventually be advantage India. But I think somewhere it was also to intimidate Lisa Healy, because she's the kind of character who's like made out of something else only. She does not get phased that fast. But I think that also like got her like, whoa, what just happened? Like, why would you do that? And then you saw Harmanpreet was so like charged up, and she's getting all the bowlers around her charged up. So perhaps that momentum shift was also crucial to take into account. But I think Harmanpreet is that kind of character, right? She's super aggressive, and compared to the kind of skippers we've had in the past for India, she brings that brand of cricket, which kind of rubs off on the rest of the players as well, which is great to see. But an instance like this is not an example you want to set for your future generations. So in that sense, I was like, hey, maybe the aggression can be toned down a little. Let's constructively use it. But yeah, at least that's what I thought about it.
Fair enough. Show me, but if you had to choose, between this Harman's this instance of throwing the ball and Harman's instance of, or rather her actions in the Bangladesh series of, sort of going all out against the opposition skipper, I would imagine you would choose this over that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, better this one. But yeah, definitely do not appreciate this behavior at all. Of course, this kind of, as Neha mentioned, this intimidated Healy, and we saw her losing a little bit of calm there. But also the way Harman's body language was, she was actually going at Healy for blocking that ball. I mean, in all her rights, she will block that ball, right? And she was kind of appealing to the umpire for that, which was a little over the top. But it kind of also derailed Healy a bit, and maybe that led to the wicket, which came right after. So I think, but yeah, in all honesty, we have spoken about this on the day this happened, and we spoke about the Johnson Kohli incident where Kohli had mentioned, "Don't hit the stumps, not my body. Like target the stumps, not my body." So if I had supported Kohli then, I'll support Healy now. It's all about the spirit of the game there. So yeah, I mean, definitely not required, but knowing Harman, you know what she can do.
100% not required, but what is required, of course, is for us to preview and review the ODI series, which starts on the 28th. So, people, please do make sure to tune in. Then we will be doing a preview, and we'll of course be also we'll also be reviewing the games at the end of it. So do tune into that, and make sure you've liked the live stream right now if you haven't already, and also please make sure you've subscribed to us if you haven't already. It's time to wrap up now. Thank you so much, guys. It's been great bringing this coverage to you. It's been great talking about this game, which is, of course, historic in its own right. India's first ever Test victory against the Australian side. Great to watch, great to cover, great to call. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day. Good evening. Bye bye.